Welcome, everyone. So, if you're anything like me, then in your spare time, you might like competing in cybersecurity capture the flag events or CTFs. And one thing I've noticed that's becoming much more common in these Jeopardy style CTFs, where they have different categories, is that they'll actually include a hardware hacking category. Now, of course, with these CTFs, hardware hacking can sometimes be challenging to include because we can't provide everyone with hardware. We have to come up with a software solution. So, to overcome that, one of the most frequent things that I see being done is that the challenge will just be to decode a logic analyzer capture, and the flag will be, somehow hidden inside that capture. And, maybe it will be just a standard protocol that you need to understand and then decode it, or they'll, make up some kind of fancy protocol or something like that that you actually have to, put some thought into and analyze. These are a great way to practice using the logic analyzer software. And then also, if you are just trying to be competitive in CTFs, I honestly find that these are usually a really easy amount of points because I think people are intimidated by them, so not a lot of people try them. But if you understand how to use the logic analyzer software, then most people, you can usually decode these and score your team some easy points. So I put together two challenges here for you to solve. And let's just take a look at the info for the first one just to get an idea behind what's behind it. So I'll look at broken transmission first here. And if you look at the info here, it just says, can you help us decode this transmission? Looks like there was some error during transmission and we can't seem to figure what's going on. And then just one hint here that the flags are in this format HWH with the squiggly brackets, and then it's all in this uppercase LEET format with the underscores in between it. So if you want to take a shot at solving these challenges, there's just the pulse view file right here that you can open up and then try and decode the flag. Again, it's in that format that's in the info.txt. So if you want to try this on your own, just hit pause on the video right now. And then when you come back, I will show the solutions. Okay, welcome back. Hopefully you're able to solve some of these. If not, that is okay. I'm going to go over these solutions right now. So we will look at broken transmission, and I'm just going to launch it up right now so we can click on the pulse view file here and it should just open it up for us. Okay, so I'm just going to move this over here and zoom in. And when I'm initially looking at this, to me, it's starting to look like UART. Of course, we've just got the one signal here, so we know it has to be asynchronous. There's no clock provided or clock signal. Another good clue is that we have this line being held high here, and then in between transmissions, same thing, we have this line being held high. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more, and I'm seeing again what looks like these blips of UART transmission. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start by adding a UART decoder here. And we'll just take a shot in the dark. One thing I'll usually do is I'll just, we'll pick the channel here and I'll just run with all defaults and see where that gets us. So we will just leave it as all these defaults, the default baud rate here. I'm going to zoom in and you see, unfortunately, we get a framing error. So what that means is that it wasn't able to, find frames that match those characteristics that we set out at. And generally, what this means is that you have the baud rate wrong, but it could be any one of those other parameters that we chose, like the amount of data bits or the stop bits or the parity, for example. What I suggest is, if you have framing errors and you can't figure these out, start with the baud rates and exhaust, trying the baud rates and a bunch of different baud rates and your measurements before you start going on to any of these, because a lot of times, the data bits, parity, stop bits, this least significant bits first, these are all going to just stay as standard, even in CTF competitions. So start with the baud rate first. With baud rate, you have two options. You can just start by measuring it, which is always a good thing to do with measuring it, or you can look at a list of standard baud rates because there really is, only a certain amount of baud rates that are generally used. Now, in a CTF, someone might be doing something kind of weird or wonky and just running with a non-standard baud rate, but a lot of times you'll see standard baud rates being used. So for CTFs or not, I always suggest take a peek at those. So let's open my web browser here. I'm just going to go to Wikipedia, and I believe it under serial port, there is a list of these. So if we just look here, if you scroll down a little bit, common serial port speeds. And you just see a list of this bitrate or baud rates, and you'll see a bunch of the common speeds. So what we see here is this 115,200, probably the most common one. The second most common one that you'll see a lot is this 9600. So you can try and brute force and just use these speeds. But what I like to do is I'll use these in conjunction with a measure. So if you just jump back to our measurement, and if we zoom out a little bit, I'm seeing this symbol, this short symbol, repeating over and over again. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit on it and just take a measurement here. Okay, so I'm seeing it as this 14.4928 kilohertz, and that translates to a baud rate of, if we just take this decimal and move it over 1, 2, 3, that is 14,492, which that actually lines up, if we go back to here, it lines up with this 14,400. So I'm going to give that baud rate a shot, because we do remember, sometimes our measurements can be slightly off for the timing depending on the frequency that it was sampled at. We'll just hop back in here. I'm going to put this at this 14400. And I'm also going to not forget to put this in ASCII. Generally, you're going to see it in ASCII in the capture the flag. And if we zoom out here and kill this measurement, all right, we got 0xAF, so looks like some sort of hex code being sent, another hex code being sent, and then as we scroll over, we start seeing some ASCII here, so that's a good sign. Loading firmware version here, loaded, handing over to kernel loaded, preparing transmission, and then we get the secret code is this HWH, we get this left bracket, broken underscore, and then we get ... detecting noise on the line, falling back to lower transmission speed. And then it looks like we got a pause in the transmission. And we've got a break here where it looks like now we have another framing error. And when I look at this, I'm seeing, if I just scroll out here, you can really see it obviously, that these pulses are a lot longer than these ones. And we did say that it was falling back to a lower speed. So, what can happen sometimes with these transmissions, if the processor can't handle it or something's going on, is that we need to lower the speed in order to not have errors and allow it to process. So maybe that's what this challenge would be mimicking. And I'm just going to zoom in here, and it looks like we've got this repeating again of these symbols. So I'm just going to take a measurement of these symbols here. All right, and it looks like we are at 1.1976 kilohertz, which if we jump back over to our list again here, we got this 1200. So I'm going to run with that. And one of the nice things in PulseView is that we can actually drop in a second UART decoder on that same line. So I'm just going to do that right now. We just search for UART again. And we can add a second decoder. Just going to get rid of this measurement since we don't need it anymore. Set this as D0, but we're going to set this as that 1200. And then if we zoom out here, oh yeah, don't forget to set it to ASCII like I did. And we're starting to get measurements. So we get this, the rest of what appears to be, we're going to need to look at this UART. So it's hardware hacking, broken underscore, and then the 7, which in lead speak is the T. And if we scroll over and zoom in, then we get the rest is transmission underscore received. And then it just says end transmission. So perfect. We got the solution right there. So hopefully you're able to figure it out. This is one challenge that I've seen this kind of theme or something very similar used before in hardware hacking CTF. So something to keep in mind, and just good practice for determining those baud rates and how we can decode the messages. So I'll wrap this one up here, close it, and we're going to take a look at the second challenge. Okay, so the next one is this beep, 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 and we'll take a look at that right now. let's take a look at the info for it. All right, the briefing says, we've interrupted this strange transmission and are trying to figure out what it is. Seems like it may be using some ancient communication protocol. Hint, flags are in the format, and we give this same format again. However, they may be encoded in the transmission. CyberChef is a great tool for decoding strings during CTFs. So if you're not familiar with how CTFs handle hiding the flags, sometimes they will encode the flags in, one of many encodings, hex or URL or base64. And there's multiple reasons for that. A lot of times it's just so that it prevents people from, doing a search or like a grep or something like that on, the starting string of the flag. And CyberChef is a great tool, if you see these strings to figure out what's going on. So hint for that. Just going to close this and let's launch this up. Okay, so I'm looking at this and immediately it does not look like UART to me. We're just getting one channel here and there's no clock or anything. And I'm seeing that the line is low. And the other thing that I'm seeing is these pulses are, they're pretty long. So in order to solve this, you've kind of got to, this is a little of a challenge that's a little bit more out there in terms of not being a standard communication protocol that you're going to see. But you will see this in CTS where people use, older protocols or things like this. The name of the challenge gives it away a little bit, hopefully as a hint, and then also in the info.txt that what we're actually looking at right here is Morse code. And if you're not familiar with Morse code, there's actually just two symbols that are used in Morse code, kind of like binary, where we have what's called a dot, so it's a short transmission, and then a dash, which is a long transmission. And then these combinations of dots and dashes, they actually make up letters and numbers, so they make up all of the characters. The cool thing about PulseView is it actually has a Morse code decoder in it, so we can just pop this up, and if you search here for Morse, we have a Morse code decoder, so I'm just going to add that. It's super cool that it's got one of those. So we're going to pick the channel, the data line here, and you'll see here we've got this time unit that we need to decipher. And the time unit in Morse, if you're not familiar with it, is it's all based on the length of the shortest symbol, which is the dot. Because the way that it works is, then every other dot should be the same length as that. And a dash is the same length as 3 dots. And between words, we'll have a pause that's the same length as a dash or 3 dots. So in order to get this time unit, we just need to measure the pulse width of this single dot, which I'm going to do right now. So we'll just add in a measurement. And there's one right here, so we'll just grab this one here. If we zoom in on it, looks like it's about 50 milliseconds. We can just go back into the Morse decoder here, and I'm going to set this as this is 0.05. Perfect. And then if we scroll out, we actually get this word here, which it gives us, this Morse word. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go here, and I'm going to go copy annotation text to clipboard. I'm going to go back into browser here, and I'm going to look for CyberChef. This one right here, load it up. I'm going to paste it in here. And then, so you're just going to have to get used to this if you want to do CTFs. You can either try, the different encodings. When I look at this one, I can just see right away that this is a hex encoding because we've just got all of the, hex digits in here, 0 through 9, and then, the letters A through F. So I'm just going to go, from hex here, drop the recipe in here, and then look at that. It gives us the output of the flag is this HWH. Morse is serial, which it is true. Morse code is probably the first actual implementation of a serial communication where we're just sending, those datas one after another. And it's almost still like bits where we have only 2 symbols. We have a dot and a dash. So hopefully you're able to figure this one out. If not, that's okay. This one is a little bit more of a challenging one to solve. With that being said, I hope you had fun with these capture the flags as well. That wraps up this challenge, and I will see you over in the next video.